Stay on with us. We're tracking some other crucial developments. In the meantime, Israel's far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich has announced that he will vote against the Gaza ceasefire deal reached between Israel and Hamas. Now, in a recent post on his social media platform, Smotrich has expressed strong opposition to the deal, citing concerns about the consequences of releasing prisoners, particularly the potential for releasing what he described as the next generation of terrorist leaders. Now, his comments have come as the Israeli government is faced with the impact of the peace plan, which includes a pause in fighting and the release of hostages and prisoners. Additionally, Smotrich has warned that this could lead to increased violence and threaten Israel's security in the future. Still with us on the broadcast is Dr. Emmanuel Neva. Now, he's of course referred to the past, stating that it should serve as a warning for the future. In your assessment, what lessons can be learned from previous international peace efforts in Gaza when implementing the current plan, especially down the line?
Well, there haven't really been previous peace plans in Gaza. I mean, there was, if you like, the Oslo agreements in 1993 when Israel withdrew from parts of Gaza and transferred the authority to the Palestinian Authority, which turned every territory from which Israel withdrew into a terrorist basis. And then when Israel completely withdrew unilaterally from the Gaza Strip in 2005, it was taken over by Hamas 2 years later, which turned that territory into a huge military basis that eventually led to October 7. So the lessons of the past must be learned. And those lessons are that whenever Israel withdrew from some territory, they were used by the Palestinians not to build and not to make peace, but to pursue war against Israel and use those territories as launching pads against Israel. Another lesson of history is that the terrorists that have been released in the past to get our hostages back have always gone back to their terrorist activity. And in that sense, Bezalel Smotrich has a point. However, life is not black and white. Very tough decisions must be made. But of course, we in Israel cannot afford not to learn the lessons of the past. We cannot afford to be naive. We have to make courageous decisions and tough decisions and painful decisions. But we must also, of course, learn from the past and never forget the lessons of the past, because whoever forgets the past in this region has no future.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time, sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. Of course, more reactions are coming in regarding this peace deal. Global leaders are remaining hopeful. World leaders, particularly Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, has called it a much-needed step towards peace. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has also expressed relief. Listen in to what Starmer had to say.
I strongly welcome the news that a deal has been reached on the first stage of the peace plan in Gaza. This is a moment of profound relief that we felt around the world, but particularly for the hostages, their families, and for the civilian population of Gaza.
Canada too has expressed its support for the deal, highlighting the reunification of hostages and the withdrawal of Israeli troops. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also urged all parties to comply with the agreement and secure a permanent ceasefire. He stressed upon the need for a two-state solution to end the conflict. Apart from this, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has expressed satisfaction with the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas following negotiations in Sharm el-Sheikh. Erdogan has thanked US President Donald Trump for his political will, along with Qatar and Egypt for their support. To add to this, the Chinese Foreign Ministry and their spokesperson, Guo Jiakun, has called for a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza. Listen in to what China has to say.
中方希望尽早实现加沙的永久全面停火，有效缓解人道危机，缓和地区紧张局势。中方主张坚持8人制8的原则，推动落实两国方案，愿同国际社会一道，为早日全面、公正、持久解决巴勒斯坦问题，推动中东地区实现和平稳定，作出不懈努力。
Jordan has also welcomed the Gaza ceasefire agreement with the Foreign Ministry, urging all parties to fully implement the terms. Jordan has reaffirmed its commitment to Palestinian rights and a two-state solution, calling for lasting peace and stability in the region. Hamas has meanwhile called for all parties to honor their commitments, stressing upon the long road to recovery. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has also praised this agreement, vowing to bring hostages home, a turning point for peace in the region. Meanwhile, Palestinians in Gaza's Khan Yunis have celebrated the ceasefire deal reached under Trump's plan to end the war. The agreement, of course, comes after 2 years of devastation following a deadly cross-border terror attack by Hamas. Now, displaced Palestinians have remained cautiously hopeful until the deal is fully implemented. Let's in fact listen in to what some Gazans have had to say.
أعلن الليلة في هدنة وقف إطلاق نار وانهاء حرب تام. الحمد لله رجع لنا ذكرياتنا، ممكن نرجع لبيت حنون إن شاء الله، تنتهي الحرب، نرجع لبيتنا لأجدادنا لأماكننا أملاكنا، نشوف أحبابنا، نشوف قرايبنا. الحرب فرقت الناس عن بعض، كل واحد في ناحية، ناس في الشمال، ناس في الجنوب، ناس في الوسطى. تقف المعاناة، تقف أهم شيء المعاناة، الجوع، الفقر، التشريد.
بشكر الله أول كل حاجة، وبشكر كل الدول اللي ساهمت بوقف إطلاق النار بعد معاناة حرب 2 كاملات من دمار، من قتل، من تجويع، من حصار، من إبادة جماعية. الحمد لله ونشكر الله أنه تم وقف إطلاق النار نهائي، وإحنا بنقول الحمد لله إن شاء الله يتم هذا وقف إطلاق النار، ونرجع ونضم أسرنا ونضم أهالينا ونضم حبايبنا ونعمل خيام ونقعد مطرح دمار بيوتنا والحمد لله.
Meanwhile, Israelis have celebrated in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square after a breakthrough deal was reached to free the hostages and end the war. The celebration followed the deal brokered by Donald Trump. It's part of a 20-point framework to bring peace. Dickman, a relative of a killed hostage, has stated that the deal would be the happiest day since October 7th. Listen in to what one of the kin of the hostages have had to say.
I want to thank President Trump for bringing this amazing victory. That's the name for it. That's a victory. He deserves a Nobel Prize for this, a Nobel Peace Prize for bringing this amazing deal. And we're waiting for the next few days to see the hostages actually coming back alive. That'd be, I think, the happiest days that we've had, at least since October 7th. I couldn't be happier. The fact that finally hostages are coming back, that the deal was signed, that the war is over. It's a happy day. It's a holiday here. That's what we wanted for such a long time. Carmel, my cousin, was murdered in captivity. She's not going to come back. It's too late for her, but it's not too late for 48 hostages who are going to come back. 20 of them are going to come back alive. And this is such a happy moment for us, the families of the hostages. Such a happy moment for all Israelis and for all the Middle East.
Shifting focus to what's taking place in India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his British counterpart Keir Starmer have held a delegation-level meeting in Mumbai. Prime Minister Modi has stated that India-UK relations have seen significant progress, highlighting the historic CETA trade agreement signed in July. He's added that the deal will lower import costs, boost trade, create jobs for youth and benefit industries and consumers in both nations. Prime Minister Modi has also referred to the Business Leaders Summit, CEO Forum and Global FinTech Festival as opportunities to strengthen cooperation. Modi has called India and UK natural partners, sharing democratic values, and has discussed security, particularly in West Asia, in the Indo-Pacific and in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Starmer has stated that he was delighted to return to India just months after hosting Prime Minister Modi in the UK. He has invited Modi to the United Kingdom once again, emphasizing a modern partnership focused on future opportunities. He has stated that the trade deal will slash tariffs, drive growth and create jobs for both countries. The British Prime Minister has also praised India's economic growth, announced 126 British businesses joining the visit and has welcomed the first stage of the Gaza peace plan. He's also announced more British universities will open campuses in India supporting Vision 2035. Listen in to what Starmer has said.
The UK and India stand side by side as global leaders in tech and innovation And so we've also taken the opportunity to deepen our cooperation through our Technology Security Initiative, with new commitments on AI, advanced communication, defence technologies, and much, much more. We're announcing a deal to make Bollywood films in the United Kingdom after a fantastic visit to the studio yesterday, and we're deepening our cooperation in education, as we've evidenced here on the film and with the people that we have in the room. It is the younger generation in India who will lead the charge to deliver on that 2047 target. The demand for the best quality higher education is very high, so I'm really pleased that we're announcing today that more British universities will be setting up campuses right here in India, making Britain India's leading international provider of higher education and delivering on our vision 2035.
With us on the broadcast is Mr. Adit Kothari, Foreign Affairs expert, joining us from London. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. In July, when Prime Minister Modi went to the United Kingdom, we saw the landmark India-UK FTA being signed. Now, Keir Starmer has brought the largest ever British trade delegation to India. In focus is Vision 2035, and we've just in fact received a list of outcomes of these discussions that have taken place as well. The establishment of an India-UK Connectivity and Innovation Centre will be taking place. A joint centre for AI will also be established. Critical minerals and supply chain observatory and the establishment of a new satellite campus at IIT IISM Dhanbad will also be done. So what do you make of the focus on AI, connectivity, innovation, critical minerals, even climate change and biomedical research?
So Ria, I think on paper, while all of this sounds very positive, with Keir Starmer coming with a 125-member strong delegation into India, the largest, the UK's ever done, largest probably India's ever seen. On paper, it seems very fine. But the economic pragmatism is what I think lacked in Keir Starmer's agreements as well. I mean, the fact that, the UK is going through a period of economic stagnation. So his comments today lack that sort of economic pragmatism, because while you should have completely insulated the geopolitical issues and you should have purely focused on the economic aspect of it, he decided to try to create pressure and exert pressure on India from a perspective of human rights, climate change, bringing in the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which I think will only lead to more stalemate between India and the UK. The Indians do not take this sort of pressures very well. We've seen this, with regards to how India and Canada ties have played out. Recently how India and United States ties are playing out at this moment. And the last thing the UK needs is another stalemate, because they are at the moment already reeling through a very difficult time of having to leave the single market of the European Union. The GDP as a consequence has been impacted negatively, regressively by about 8%. The India-UK FTA adds roughly about 0.20 to that particular loss. But if you start to posture yourself in that sort of geopolitical domain where you're leaning on some sort of hypocrisy, where you're raising topics of Jagtar Singh Johal and you're raising topics of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, but you're not actually addressing India's concerns with regards to the Khalistani terrorism and patronization provided by the British government to them, or the economic offenders who are currently being patronized by the British government, then it basically adds on that added pressure, which is not required at this point. Yeah.
Indeed, as you rightly put it, we've seen a lot of attacks take place, and India's diplomats being targeted. India's External Affairs Minister also, when he visited the UK a couple of months back, he was also heckled there by the Khalistanis. But coming back to the economic front, India and Britain are the world's 4th and 6th largest economies, respectively. Bilateral trade between the two nations is valued at $54.8 billion US. Investments, in fact, support nearly 600,000 jobs across both countries. So in light of all of this, where can we see the bilateral sort of synergy impacting both countries, especially in light of the United States adopting a more protectionist stance, with Trump sort of levying these very high tariffs against India in particular?
So it sort of advances India's multipolar strategy by leaps and bounds, I would say. So even the UK is now looking to hedge against the US-China sort of volatilities at this point. It's trying to sort of diversify its supply chain and over-reliance and cut down the over-reliance of China. So India becomes one of those key sort of partners, those strategic allies that the UK can rely on from a supply chain perspective. Pharmaceuticals is going to be big in this case, where pharmaceutical supplies from India are going to make it into Britain as a consequence of these of this comprehensive economic treaty. From a UK perspective, of course, cars which were coming into India, like the Aston Martins, the V8, V9 engines, were being charged 110% duties initially. They are going to be falling down into the 30% category now. So the Indian consumer, while benefiting from lower duties, the UK companies will see some growth, although the growth can be disputed because, initially the growth is going to be slightly limited because the 30% subsequently in the next year is going to fall down to about 15%. So the Indian consumers might just wait out for another year before they can splurge out their monies to buy those kind of vehicles. But yes, there is a significant push towards trade, sort of economic cooperation between the two countries. Indian techies who are going to be going into the UK under the ICT visa scheme do not have to pay or contribute towards the national insurance, which is the social security contributions which they were doing for the longest time, and that was one of the red herrings over the last 3.5 years of negotiations between the India and the UK. Now that's been mitigated. So incidentally, 5 to 10,000 per employee is going to be saved over the course of the 3 years that India is going to be beneficiary of.
Indeed, so with that, I would like to thank you. I'd also like to inform our viewers that both Prime Ministers will later attend the 6th edition of the Global FinTech Fest in Mumbai. The event will bring together innovators, policy makers, regulators, investors and industry experts from across the world. Now, this year's theme is Empowering Finance for a Better World, powered by AI, augmented intelligence, innovation and inclusion. It also focuses on how technology and human insight can together build a more ethical and sustainable financial future. But of course, a comprehensive document has been put out in the meantime. In fact, taking our viewers through some of the outcomes that have been discussed. As I mentioned earlier, a comprehensive list of documents has been put out. There's an establishment of the India-UK Connectivity and Innovation Centre that will be taking place. There's an establishment of a joint centre for AI that will also be occurring very soon. Launch of Phase 2 of the UK-India Critical Mineral Supply Chain Observatory and establishment of a new satellite campus at IIT ISM Dhanbad will also occur. As they've also stated that more British universities will be establishing campuses in India. There's a letter of intent that has been handed over for opening of the campus of Lancaster University in Bengaluru, and in principle approval for opening of campus of University of Surrey in Gift City. The meeting of the reconstituted India-UK CEO Forum is also slated to take place very, very shortly. Both Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will be a part of this particular meeting. All right, viewers, shifting focus away from India towards Sudan. In Sudan, at least 13 people were killed after an artillery attack struck a mosque in the besieged city of El-Fasher. The strike, carried out by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, took place on the 9th of October. One resident has stated that after the shelling, 13 bodies were pulled from under the rubble and laid to rest. Another survivor recounted that around 70 families had been sheltering inside the mosque after the forces entered their homes. The attack has also left at least 20 people wounded and has caused heavy damage to the building. All right.